Hello. 2 years ago, when Fanny Bryce was at MGM, I used to go out and visit her. I was doing some films at 20th Century Fox at the time. And Fanny was playing a maid with a hat on crooked, something like this, and just miserably unhappy doing it. But the first time I walked on the lot, all the big stars were at MGM. And there was Spencer Tracy. And Fanny said, "Oh, Gypsy, I want you to meet Spencer Tracy." So I was introduced to him. Terribly big, thrilling moment in my life. How do you do? Tremendous actor, all that sort of thing. And I went to visit Fanny about a week later, and there, right in front of the commissary, the restaurant, is Spencer Tracy again. So Fanny had forgotten she'd introduced me to him, and she said, "Oh, Gypsy, I want you to meet Spencer Tracy." And Spencer Tracy had forgotten he met me, too, because he said, "How do you do?" all over again, the same way. The exact same way, you know. So I said, "How do you do?" I was trying to get the same enthusiasm I'd gotten the week before. Uphill all the way. And about 3 weeks later, 2 weeks later, I was on the set again, but right on Fanny's set, and there is Spencer Tracy sitting watching the shooting. So Fanny said, "Oh, Gypsy, darling, do you remember Spencer Tracy?" And I was getting ready to say, "Of course," but I saw that real glazed look in front of his eye and waited for him to say, "I remember." Not a word. He said, "How do you do?" to me all over again as though he'd never met me before in his life. So I let that go. I figured, well, that's, par for the course. That's the story of my life, But 6 months later, I was home in New York. I went to a nightclub called La Martinique. This was one of those cellar nightclubs in New York. Pitch dark, little candles on the tables. And these have lampshades on them. No lights at all. And smoke, you can't see your hand in front of you. I was with 3 or 4 of my New York friends. I walked in, I heard someone say, "Hey, Jeff! Jeff!" I'm looking around because the voice is familiar. It's a well-known voice. Way in the back of this padded cellar is Spencer Tracy. "Hi, Jeff!" So my friend who's so impressed, he said, "Gypsy, that's Spencer Tracy." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, do you know him?" I said, "Sure." "Hi, Spencer!" Now, there is a reason. There's always a reason for these long, drawn-out stories, and this one is that at MGM at the same time, there was the biggest star of them all, and she's our guest today. In 1 minute, I want you to meet her. They were all weepers, if you remember.
I know they cried a lot in Metro. They put some screws on you.
Sophie, and Fanny was the only one who didn't cry. Oh, hello. I'm so glad you're with us, because I want you to meet my guest today. I'm so happy to have her, Judy Garland. You see that long story about Spencer Tracy really didn't make sense at all. I bet you thought I had Katharine Hepburn, didn't you? I fooled you. That's the way we do it around here. Oh, deceptive people. But no, we were trying to, during that intermission, we were talking about the film Judy was making at MGM at that time. Sophie Tucker was
owned the boarding house, and Mickey Rooney, I think, was a jockey, wasn't he?
He was, that's right. But Fanny wasn't in that picture, was she?
Fanny wasn't in that.
No,
just Sophie was in it. And I was in it.
Yes, I know.
And there were a couple of horses in it. Losers, I think. I don't really remember. It was Thoroughbreds Don't Cry was the name of it. And I think they had arranged for it to be made with the leading child star at the time, who was Freddie Bartholomew. But Freddie's voice changed. And he suddenly went from... and so they got a new boy, Ronald Sinclair, I think his name was, and just put him in this starring role, and it's kind of a rough go on him, I guess.
Oh, of course it was.
Well, they ground him up into little bits of cement or something. No one has heard of it since. Not even as a person.
Nobody realized, I don't think, really, Judy, until you spoke of it one night on the Jack Parr show, the terrible injustice that was done to all of you people, actually. You know, you think of someone being a great, big, famous movie star, how wonderful it is for her. But, when you realize that they're pitting one of you against the other, they used Deanna Durbin to threaten you, didn't they?
Well, no, couldn't use us. We were on different lots, but they used, I remember, that they got mad. Some of the executives had a fight, and Deanna Durbin and I were at an awful age when no one existed, you know. You either had to be 7 years old or you had to be 20. You know, in between, there were no teenage, nothing. So we just hung around, so I went to school, and didn't know what we were there for. So finally they fired Deanna, and they were going to fire me, too. But the Universal picked her up her option, or her contract, I should say. And then they made a star of her, and MGM got so mad at Universal, they just said, well, we've got a girl that age, too. So that's the only reason I really got a job, because Deanna Durbin was a big star. And
it's incredible, isn't it?
Really, and then they had these back-breaking hours that we used to work. Mickey and I would go to work, I would say on a Monday morning, we'd check in about 5 o'clock. Well, I've got this funny story too, I must tell you. There was a man at the gate. He'd been there for 100 years. He really was just like an old totem pole. But you couldn't get into MGM without his letting you through, you know. So for a few years I had to walk through, and he always stopped me. And I'd say, well, my name is Judy Garland. He said, you're not on the list. So he'd say, I'll have to call a couple of people. I think I'm going to be late for school. Well, he called a couple. So I was always late. And finally, after being there for 16 years, I was at Metro, and absolutely terrified all 16 years. You know, it really was brainwash time. And they fired me, and I was very happy about it. But I wanted to get a few things out of my dressing room. Personal things, you know, my own things. And I went back with my own car, and I was wheeling into Metro, and he said, just a minute, same man. And I said, now, honey, you know, we've done this fandango for so many years. I'm not trying to get into a film. I'm not trying to, just want to get in and get my things out of my dressing room. And he said, you're not on the list. And they really never let me in. They wouldn't. I never got my things out of my room.
You never did?
No, I couldn't get by that man.
That's incredible.
No, he was given orders to shoot if anybody went. I think his name was Dory Sherry. He was in the universe.
Of course, I had such stars in my eyes in those days. The thought of just being in a movie, I didn't care what they did to me. They put on a long blonde wig and changed my name and gave me a peculiarly shaped mouth and loaded me down with clothes. They gave me everything I didn't need, you know. But I didn't really care. I was just so happy. I was a moving picture actress. Yeah. And to meet all the movie stars, and I had 3 autograph books and almost full before they canceled me out.
I think that's darling.
I was working on my 3rd autograph book.
Yeah. Why didn't you forge some?
You know, since then I've done that. I did it.
I do with pictures around the house. You know?
Shirley Jones, that's what happened. Shirley Jones left some pictures when she was on the show, and they weren't autographed.
Yeah.
And I was in there forging her handwriting on all of them.
Don't leave your checkbook by.
But it was so funny at the studio.